Here is the spin-off of the spin-off. First, we had Big Bang Theory, then Young Sheldon, and now this one, taking over the Thursday night at 8 slot on CBS, the coveted Big Bang slot. Let's talk about Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. This airs Thursday nights on CBS. Look, they've had huge success, obviously, with the Big Bang franchise. So after that, we had Young Sheldon, which took place in the 80s. And some in the 90s as well, the last couple seasons. And now we've got the follow-up to that, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. So before we launch into the specifics of this show and my thoughts on it, let me welcome you back to the channel. Thank you for being a subscriber if you are already. If you're not, though, please consider subscribing and click that notification bell so you get the alerts for all my new video drops. But just like this video and commenting, that helps the channel out as well, of course. So, all right. So Thursday nights at 8 has long been the home for, the top comedies around. In the 80s, it was The Cosby Show. In the 90s, you had Friends there. For a little while, I guess we had Big Bang Theory then, in the 2000s and the 2010s, and then Young Sheldon, and now Georgie and Mandy has taken over that slot, hoping to capture some of that success. So you have, returning from Young Sheldon, Montana Jordan as Georgie Cooper, and then Emily Osment as Mandy McAllister. She was on the last couple of seasons of Young Sheldon. And then newcomers, so Mandy's parents factor heavily into this show instead of Georgie's parents, although we will see at least Georgie's mom here and there. She was in the premiere episode. But you have Rachel Bay Jones as Audrey McAllister, Will Sasso as Jim McAllister, and then Dougie Baldwin plays Mandy's brother Connor. And then you have also Jesse Prez as Ruben. That's all the main cast, and Ruben is one of the mechanics at the shop that Jim runs and that Georgie works at. So, look, for these new shows, I really do try to usually give 2 to 3 episodes to really, sample it, get the characters down, kind of get to know where they're going with the plot and stuff. But look, this just premiered. There's only been 1 episode so far. But because we know these characters already, at least some of them, I thought I can probably gauge how this show is going to be based on this first episode. So this is just really a review for that pilot episode. But I think it's, I've been reviewing TV shows for years and years. I think it's probably going to be a pretty good descriptor of how we can expect at least the first season to kind of go. Because we don't really need to know many of these characters. We already know them, at least Georgie and Mandy, the main two here. But like I said, we do see Mary, played by Zoe Perry once again, and then Meemaw comes in, played by Annie Potts, in this first episode as well. I do have it on authority here that Craig T. Nelson will also be reprising his role as Dale at some point. But in this first episode, essentially Georgie and Mandy move in with her parents, and their infant daughter Cece is with them. But there's a lot of problems because specifically Mandy's mother really, really doesn't like Georgie. She doesn't like that he knocked up her daughter. She doesn't like, that he seems aimless and whatever. But the father, Will Sasso, fantastic here. Have always loved him from the Mad TV days and on. But, he's kind of in his corner and hires him at the shop. And look, I'll get to what it reminds me of in a second. But so they have a big fight, and specifically Mandy and her mother have this huge row, and she says, "Look, we're leaving. We're moving out. We'll find anything." So they find this really terrible trailer park home with the train running by and all of that, and they invite, Meemaw and Georgie's mother over for dinner, and it's just, they're trying, but it kind of goes horribly. And spoilers for the pilot, because it's the whole premise of the show, so it's going to be no surprise that they move back in with Mandy's parents, because obviously that's the premise. So that's where it's going to go from there. But at the same time, you have Georgie at the mechanic shop, And this Ruben guy really, really can't stand him, doesn't like him. He says, look, I've been here for years and years. I'm going to night school, and you just get handed a job because you knocked up the boss's daughter. Okay, cool. So there's a little back and forth with that. So it should be noted that this is a live audience sitcom. They've got the laughing and all of that, like Big Bang Theory was. Young Sheldon wasn't, and I don't know. Chuck Lorre, has created or co-created all of these shows. I don't know what the thought process was with Young Sheldon not being a live audience sitcom or a laugh track sitcom. I'm thinking just because it takes place in the 80s and like kind of Wonder Years vibes a little bit. There's the voiceover narration from Jim Parsons as the older Sheldon. So that makes sense to me. So why we're bringing this one back around to the live audience, I'm not sure, but Chuck Lorre certainly knows his way around those types of shows. He's been a creator or a showrunner or what have you on, I don't know, maybe at least a dozen shows dating back to Grace Under Fire in the 90s. But obviously Big Bang Theory and Mom and Two and a Half Men and a lot of his really big hits are these studio audience sitcoms. So that makes sense. And it doesn't distract me, but I will say they did a little bit of a bait and switch at the beginning because the first scene, they're watching Frasier, and I thought they were going to go the route of, spin-offs, ha ha ha, spin-offs never work, or, whatever. But no, they went the route of Frasier is a laughing show, where they tell you where to laugh, whereas things like, and they mentioned the Wonder Years, where the Wonder Years are not. Is it funny? We don't know. And that was kind of a cute way to start this show, because I think, look, most people have watched The Big Bang Theory at least a little bit and know what it's about. But if you only really watched Young Sheldon, like, for example, my nephew, I don't think he's ever watched Big Bang Theory, but he found Young Sheldon on Netflix and binged all of those episodes. So might he be surprised that this show is with the studio audience? Yeah, maybe. So I thought that was kind of a nice way to kind of ease us into the episode and sort of this world that we've created. And Emily Osment, look, she is certainly no stranger to the studio audience or the laugh track, because her start really was on Hannah Montana. And so I think casting her even in Young Sheldon and then subsequently here was a really good stroke of genius, because there is a whole subsect. Now, I'm obviously too old. I did watch Hannah Montana a little bit, and it was funny. But that's not my demo, But I think if you're going for, some younger folks that maybe grew up with Hannah Montana and a lot of those Disney Channel shows, this is a good way to get them into a current show. Network TV is kind of dying here, so I think it's good to have her on board. She's very funny, by the way. That's partially why Hannah Montana worked. Everybody was kind of firing on all cylinders there. But Georgie is funny. I wouldn't have thought. It is kind of like Frasier. I wouldn't have necessarily thought watching Young Sheldon, okay, this is the character to spin off. But it certainly is working so far. Georgie has come a long way. Look, when Young Sheldon started, he must have been, I don't know, 13 or something, or 14, maybe a little older, but probably not much, at least the character, the actor, probably a little older, but, now he's in his early 20s, I guess, and doing the deal. But, look, there's a lot of similarities to a lot of other sitcoms here. The in-laws don't really like the guy, and this and that and the other thing. The thing that this reminded me of the most, at least in this first episode, was Roseanne, because you have Becky and Mark. Now, Mark and Becky never had a kid, but they did move out against Roseanne and Dan's wishes into a trailer park, and it was not great. But they decided, hey, this is going to be our lives. We're going to rough it out and stick to our guns here. On this show, the premise hinges on them living with the in-laws, so we had to get them back. The trailer they got had to be so horrible that there was no choice but to come back. But look, there were some emotional moments that I think worked towards the end of this episode. I thought there were a couple of things maybe that they were going to do that they didn't do, and I was okay with it. I think it still worked for what the show is going to be. But look, this mother-in-law, Emily's mother is, Emily's mother, what's her name? Mandy's mother is very hard-headed, stubborn. I'm always right. That's obviously going to factor in a lot. But if you can get her to apologize in this first episode, then that I think opens the door for, okay, in subsequent episodes, she'll be a little bit less, terse with her, demeanor and all of that. So, but look, Will Sasso always rooting for everybody. He's, kind of the everyman. Love him. And by the way, there is a spoiler in this first episode. If you haven't finished Young Sheldon, there is a big reveal in the first episode of this about what happens towards the end of Young Sheldon. So just a warning alert for that. But look, overall, I think this show certainly has potential. I bailed on Big Bang Theory after about 4 seasons. As a lot of Chuck Lorre shows do, it just got stale. The jokes got repetitive, and it was more, making fun of that nerd culture rather than sort of embracing it, which is weird because nerd culture has really, been huge since the Marvel movies and all of that, but whatever. I kind of bailed on that, but I love Young Sheldon. And so this, I think, is a nice extension of that show. I think it falls for me somewhere probably in the middle. Big Bang started out high and ended, terribly when I bailed on it. Young Sheldon always kind of high. This is a little lower, but we'll see where it goes. I leave Georgie and Mandy's first marriage with a B for now. And of course, if it goes long enough, we know that they're going to end up getting divorced because that was kind of one of the through lines of this character when we learned about him on Big Bang Theory, is that he's had a couple of divorces. So, and that's why the name of the show is The First Marriage. So if the show goes long enough, maybe we'll get to see that. I don't think that would be very fun, but who knows what they've got in store. But for now, you can see new episodes of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Thursday nights on CBS. Thank you so much for watching Dan Reviews It, and I will see you next time.